Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about the intermittent fasting diet. I have had a client who has lost a substantial amount of weight on the intermittent fasting diet. It works really well with her routine. I consider her an outlier because she is the only person I know that has lost weight and kept it off and successfully adopted this routine. In part because she forgives herself when she, falls a little short. It's a very good balance. She has a very good mindset towards it. But I've also had 3 other clients in the past 7 days ask me to do a video about intermittent fasting. So here it is. Let's dive in. It works by alternating periods of eating. Basically, you're allowed to eat for a certain time slot or for a certain day, depending on the variation of intermittent fasting that you're doing, followed by periods of starvation, of course. You are not allowed to eat for a certain amount of time each day or for a certain day of the week. Can't eat. And this forces your body to go into ketosis, which is when you don't have enough blood sugar in your body, so your body begins to break down ketones, which are fat, for fuel. And it sounds awesome, but it's very hard to achieve. You have to be very disciplined to do so. It's important to know that this isn't actually a diet, it's a lifestyle choice. It's about the order in which you consume your foods. It's not more of like you're allowed to eat this, you're not allowed to eat that. It's more of when you are allowed to eat and when you are not allowed to eat. So let's go through the top 3 most common ways to intermittent fast. So first, there's the 16-8-hour rule, where for 16 hours you're fasting, and then for 8 hours of the day you're allowed to eat. So say I wake up at 8 a.m., I'm allowed to eat for the next 8 hours from 8 to 4 p.m. And then after that, I'm not allowed to eat anything at all, okay? So I would have to kind of load all my nutrients within that time frame, around work, whatever it is I have to do for the day. I have to fit in all my meals for the day there. And then after that, no eating. Even before I go to bed, even immediately if I wake up before 8 a.m., not allowed to eat. There's many variations to this. You can get pretty specific. You can go 24. You can go 18/6, of course. But the more common variations are 14 hours fasting, 10 hours eating, 12 hours fasting, 12 hours eating. So it all depends. The longer you starve yourself, the longer you're in ketosis, basically, which is, as we talked about with the ketogenic diet, when your body doesn't have sugar, it breaks down ketones, which are fats, as fuel. And that's optimally what you want to accomplish, but you only get there if you're disciplined enough to achieve it. Then we get into the 5-2 rule, which is a little different in the sense where for 5 days out of the week, you can eat a normal diet. Just go about your normal routine. Hopefully you're making mindful choices, but this is technically untouched. But 2 days of the week that you select, most people choose like Monday, Thursday, you're eating 25% of your total caloric intake. Meaning that if you normally have 2,000 calories a day, you're only allowed to have 500 calories in this day, okay? So that could be a shock to the system. You really have to work into it, and that's why you should never go back to back with these starvation days. You should at least have 1 to 3 normal caloric days in between your fasting days. If you do want to try the 5-2 rule, pick a day to fast and then separate it with 3 normal days and then try it again, okay? So that's your 2 days out of the week, like Monday, Thursday, and see how it goes. Then there's the every other day rule, which is basically a full step up from the 5-2 rule, meaning that if I were to have a normal day of eating, let's say on Monday, where I have my 3 square meals or my 4 square meals, the next day, not allowed to eat anything. And then, so Tuesday, I'm doing my fasting. Wednesday, allowed to eat a normal routine of meals, just like I would otherwise have. And then Thursday, same thing. I don't eat anything, and I alternate. This is very difficult on the body. I mean, prolonged periods of starvation, like a full 17 hours, or because most people are up for about 15 to 17 hours in a day, without eating anything. I mean, that's very difficult for the body. You definitely don't want to start out with this one. This is what an expert intermittent faster would do. I know several personal trainers that do intermittent fasting, and because they're so disciplined, they can work up to this. But the everyday person who has, spent years gaining weight is probably not conditioned to do something like this. It's not good for the body. You need nutrients. So some of the benefits, this is only if you do intermittent fasting the correct way as described. So number 1, better satiety, meaning that you feel full longer if you follow intermittent fasting the way that you should, because a natural response to less caloric intake is that your body wants to slow down the metabolism and it wants to hold on to whatever it has, meaning that you don't burn fat as fast, okay? So that sounds very counterintuitive, doesn't it? But if you feel full longer and you're very strict on yourself, that technically means that you won't eat as much. So, that's, I guess, the benefit of intermittent fasting right there for weight loss. 2, improved insulin sensitivity, which is huge for those with hormonal conditions such as PCOS, diabetes, prediabetes. But chances are, if you're already insulin resistant, you're not absorbing all the calories that you're consuming in the first place. So why would you want to starve yourself even more? Because the food that you're eating, you're not digesting like you should. You're not utilizing like you should for energy and movement. So if you're going to starve yourself, you're at a pretty dangerous spot to begin with. Number 3, it can reduce inflammation and oxidative stress, along with improving cardiovascular health. You do this because when you initially start fasting, your blood glucose levels can drop by up to 30%. And they stay pretty low for a while, but eventually the body adapts like it does to anything else. It brings you back to homeostasis, and your blood glucose levels kind of go back to normal. They stabilize. And if you're actually making healthy choices during the periods of eating, your blood pressure is going to go down because of reduced sodium intake. Now let's talk about the risks. Slowed metabolism, as we said, because your body's trying to hold on to whatever it's eating because it doesn't know when the next meal might be. Extreme fatigue, your brain takes up a lot of your glucose intake. So if you're going to starve it even more so of glucose, it's going to rebel a little bit. You're going to walk around pretty fatigued. You're not going to feel up to 100%. So something very serious as well, a major risk is that it can lead to the creation or worsening of current eating disorders. So that's something to keep in mind. That's why I say you shouldn't feel starved throughout the day. You want to focus on eating foods that keep you full longer, so that you never really feel starved, because your body doesn't like to be starved. It's pretty counterintuitive for weight loss because it slows down the metabolism. You don't burn fat as fast, as we've said. So the takeaway and my thoughts on the intermittent fasting diet. So listen to your body. Your body's really good at letting you know when it's going through some adverse reactions from starvation. And if you ignore these, it could get worse. It's not a good thing. You shouldn't put yourself through periods of starvation like this for weight loss. As I've said before, you need to find nutrient-dense foods that keep you full longer, and you can actually eat more meals throughout the day. You don't have to actually starve yourself. But as I said, listen to your body. It'll let you know, and you should give your body the fuel that it needs to operate at full capacity. My thoughts on this are, and some people might get offended, but think about this. If you've gained weight over a period of years, you've kind of adopted those unhealthy habits, and it's going to be tough to break out of it in months. If you're trying to adopt to intermittent fasting, you have to do it in weeks to months. You've probably spent 5 or more years adopting these unhealthy kind of binge eating habits, and now you're going to force yourself to starve in order to lose this weight. Most people are not going to be able to do this because of the sheer stress that it puts on the body and the mind. You're going to have to be so disciplined in the sense where you can't give in to those cravings that are now amplified on top of what they already are after a long day of work. Like, think about the stress that you're going to be in coming home from work knowing that you can't have a single meal. So with that being said, if I ask you to skip meals in order to lose weight, there's a good chance that it'll backfire and you'll actually binge eat because you're so hungry, and everything seems so much more delicious because you're having these cravings. So I don't recommend this. So all in all, just be mindful. Pick nutrient-dense foods. You can eat more meals throughout the day. Find whole grain foods, lean protein, starchy carbs, full carbs that keep you full for longer. And that should do the trick. That'll keep you full, like we said, longer, and you won't have to starve yourself.